Hello? Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Hello? How we doing? Paint liquor first. I haven't been here in nearly 2 weeks, so my water was all dried up. Nothing's in the right place. I have no idea what's going on. Hopefully you can hear me. Hello, hello.
You wanna?
Can you maybe turn my mic up? It seems like maybe. Hello? Check, check. Give me some volume. I've been noticing the streams are kind of quiet, so we need to make sure it's peeking into the red like that. Yep, there we go. Check, check. Perfect. Hello, Ricardo Flumi Remus. What's going on? Imperial Buckethead. What's going on? D Fresh. Alan Bicephalo. What's going on? Tony. Oh, yeah, I can see that my voice is coming through, but the stream's been very quiet lately, so Twitch tends to their audio codec when they swap it 2 whole weeks. Well, I was back yesterday sitting in the comfy chairs, and then but I haven't been on stream since Wednesday 2 weeks ago. Right? Isn't that crazy? I never leave you guys for that long. You've been known to spray some cans in your day. I mean, I just want you guys to look at the rattle can primer. I just had Gabe do this model. Are you getting the what matte looks like? Good, Ricardo. So obviously, if you've been alive and not under a rock, you've seen that we have started taunting the world with our new primers, and I mean, I don't know that I have to. There's no funny tricks here, right? There's the sheen of the plastic, right? And there's no sheen. Like, it's as black is gonna get in a super matte, and that's just a quick. You can see there's still a couple of rattle can areas that are thin, but that'll work. Yeah, it's we're about to deliver to the world the best spray primers they've ever seen, and we're super excited about it. So, Patrick, that spray varnish is giving you feelings? Yeah, that's just the black. That's not even with the clear matte on it. Gabe showed a bunch of stuff. Where is my box? Hey, Chris? Somebody? There's a box of samples I want to show you guys. We'll start off with show and tell today as people wander in. Question on colors. It's a black, white, gray, and clear matte varnish. The matte is going to blow your mind.
You also show off Kyle's comparison. It's pretty nuts.
Gabe's whole world today has been in testing and QAing the primers, and I don't know, is there anybody more excited than you about this?
I'm so excited. I have actually never used like a matte varnish on all my armies, and I will now be doing that.
So that's saying something.
I will now be doing that for everything.
We are.
It is so cool.
Do we have the? Can you get me the comparison one?
Yep.
I want the shinies.
Uh-huh.
You guys are going to be blown away by this, by the way. The first comment that everybody makes when they take a look at the matte varnish is just mind-blowing. So you can see that the white too is ultra matte, no sheen to that white at all. Again, you can see shine on even bottles and labels, and the white is just dead white. And if we do the super zoom here for you so you can see texture on it, you'll see that we do all that without sacrificing any smoothness on them. And that is 2 coats. 2 coats for coverage on that. You can see all the fine details still there. No coverage of the detail. Everything's got a lot of paintable surface still. All the hair fronds and all that stuff are still glorious. Oh yeah, perfect. So where is it? It's this one, right?
Yeah.
So I want to show you something. This is one of our texture trainers. We use the exact same resin on all of our trainers, so there's no gimmicks here. Oh, I wasn't even zoomed in. Holy crap. So we don't use any gimmicks or anything. It's always the same resin. So this is the texture trainer as you get it from us off the 3D printer. This is with the clear matte varnish.
Yep.
This is not a paint color.
Yep.
This is varnish over the top of the model.
Yep.
If you're not just flabbergasted by that, right?
Got 500 milliliters, which is...
Yeah, 500 mil, which is 25 to 30% more than all the competition, if not greater. If you're using stuff like the big V paints, then it's over double what you're used to. And with things like Citadel and AP, we are 25 to 30% more paint. And our paint is legit filled, not skimping on the can size.
I did a test to see how long it would take to go from 100 to 0 on a can. I was out there for a lot longer than I thought I would be.
You can see that the resin is the same on both of these, same shiny resin as a base, but that matte varnish just absolutely knocks the shine off entirely. Super awesome. Super stoked. Another one that you can see. I don't think we have a Hunter that's shiny, but you can see the same thing. This Hunter was just matte varnished. So no paint. That's just the raw resin with the matte varnish over the top. How crazy is that? We think we've nailed it. We really strove to get something that was akin to the old Formula Testors Dull Coat because I loved it so much. And so this will do your miniature right every time. It's just amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Available next Thursday, by the way. It's the first time we've set a date, but yeah, that's the thing. The 10th, right? The 10th?
October 10th.
Is that what time it is?
Yep.
And then gray. Right. The gray is brilliant. It's our neutral gray, right? So very easy on the eyes. It's almost like looking at it right off the sprue, right? There again is the resin color versus the gray primer. And you can see, again, smoothness. Detail. Very nice.
Yeah, these cans are...
And this was, it says heavy. This is the one you just laid on?
So I did a couple where instead of doing what you're supposed to, where you quick sprays in different areas, I just...
This was noob goes to painting.
I was like, what happens if I just hold down the spray button and keep going until I don't see any more gray plastic?
Yeah, this one is top heavy. This is him just holding the button down and spraying. Yep. So look at that.
Yep.
Look at the detail we still have, and that's like literally like how much of the can can we put on one model?
Yep. I stopped once it was covered, but if I had done the full can, goodness.
Well, it would be a big blob at that point.
Yeah.
There's nothing that will save you if that's how you treat it. But
yeah, like I said, I sprayed one into a bucket, and there are times where I'm like, really? Is it still going? There's just so much paint.
Yeah. 500 mil will go a long time. They'll do a lot of models.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I will hand these back to you. So.
You can use the matte varnish as a primer.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, you definitely can. If you wanted to just have the color of the model and just have the tooth for your paint to stick, 100% you could use the matte varnish as a primer. It will be listed under the primer section of the website as well.
Yep.
This is the black primer that you can see still. These models aren't the smoothest anyway because these are the hate models that are supposed to be very textured but look at how dead matte it is.
Yeah, lots of little deep corner spots with the armor.
Yeah. Very nice.
Cool.
Yeah, when you're doing quick squads, defresh, if you just want to paint, especially if you're off at a show or you're traveling at the store or something and you don't want to take your airbrush rig with you on the road, but just for a lot of people, this is the way they prime. And as much as we love airbrush priming, it's the way we do 99.9% of all the models you see us painting here. The reality is that for people that are just introduced to the hobby, rattle can is where you start because the expense of airbrush and everything up front it's a big expense. It's something that makes the hobby less attainable for people that are excited about it. And so rattle cans, pick up a rattle can, spray your guy, start painting, love it, then you can graduate into whatever you want. But if we create a better rattle can, then there might not even be the need for that down the road. Now we will continue to make our airbrush and all that, obviously, but. Papa Chicken, how does it respond to stripping? I mean, it's a lacquer, so it's just you're just gonna need to use a heavy solvent, to get rid of it. But it shouldn't be a big deal. We don't strip models around here. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not what we do. It's not how we do things here. Paint Licker's like, all right, I got to convince my boss to let me pay a client $200K. Wait, what? Clients, you don't pay clients, they pay you. That's the whole point. Fooker, you have this? Yeah, it's the war whatever it's called. Not War Cry. I always want to call it War Cry. The new Corvus Belly war something. What's it called?
Hatred is a really good example of our matte varnish.
Oh.
So here's one with matte varnish.
And then this is the one that was done with just the...
This is no matte varnish.
I think he did. I think he actually, on his base ones, he used... this is Kyle's Titanicus army. And on his Titanicus army, he used the Mecha flat from Vallejo.
Yes.
So this is the Mecha matte varnish on here for protective. That's what he does on all of his models, is he uses the Big V Mecha matte varnish. And you can see it still gives a good level of shine, because he uses our paint, and our paint is not that matte. So this is actually a satin varnish, because it makes everything shiny over the top of Pro-Acryl. Pro-Acryl is not that shiny, right? I mean, this is just a model painted with Pro-Acryl. I don't have any shine on it. Our paints are dead matte. So when you put a varnish from other companies on it, it makes our paints look satin, because our paints are not, are more matte than anybody's varnish. So that's it. So here is from the same army.
Look at this. Look at that shoulder.
When he put the dull coat on it.
Yeah. Look at the difference between that shoulder.
Same light. Look at that.
Amazing.
Same model. He just grabbed one of his Warlord. He's so excited about it. He's like, oh my god. Right? This is the way his army was supposed to look, because now you see all the nuances of highlights. You can't see that even highlighted the black here. He spent the time to highlight his blacks really nicely when he painted, but you can't tell because the damn varnish takes away all the hard work. Look at the shine that he did on that dull gray shine. You can't even see that up here because that's the light in the room. That's why I hate shine. Shine takes away from all the work you put on your models, because it introduces the reflection of the actual ambient light in the room you're in, as opposed to showing you the beautiful paint job you put on there. Right? That dull gray highlight on his black is spectacular.
Yeah, look at the...
Look at that.
This really...
Does Kyle know he's good at this? Kyle's a very good painter.
Totally see that on the camera, too.
Well, that's what he did. He will revarnish all of them now. He'll do his whole army.
Yep.
The thing around the office today is everybody going, when can we buy some? So the wonderful people that work here will be able to buy it by the end of the day today. You poor people got to wait till next week.
Bummer.
Kyle's amazing, right? Yeah, Kyle is a tremendous painter. Kyle, our GM, he's our general manager, and Kyle and I know each other because he worked with me at Games Workshop, and he was a great painter back then. He loves the hobby. He's a big hobbyist. So was super happy to be able to steal him away. He worked at one of the local universities in recruiting and personnel, and I was love the fact that we got to steal him away.
And he did not put much on there. He just did a nice general layer, but
these are really, yeah, this is just one layer of the matte.
Yeah, dude, that's great.
Cool. Yeah, that was great. I'm glad he did that. That's a great way to show that off. We have some good hobbyists that work for us, by the way. Das Fizzle, yeah. Well, the story around here has always been that it's not a Monument product unless we will actually put it to use. We won't just sell something as a marketing tool that it's like, oh yeah, you should use it. And then when you come here, it's like, oh, we don't really use that. We use everything we sell. Every tool, every paint, every product that we sell, we use. I carry all my stuff in a go bag, right? I design all the products because I want to have these products in my own personal arsenal of tools. And so rattle cans are tough for me because I don't like them, right? And so being able to come up with a rattle can that I will use, 100% use all of these products and paint on these products is huge, right? Oh, game delay, we definitely will. We'll say the competition's mat, our mat. Oh yeah, you can expect that kind of stuff coming from us. We don't care. GW sure does a great job of creating competitors. No, that's not. I don't. That's not unnecessarily false. I think that GW, any large corporation in an industry, will spawn smaller businesses, and that's healthy for the industry, right? Games Workshop needs the industry to be bigger than themselves because it would crumble. They can't do all the work. They know that. Any smart business knows that. They have the most traction. They're the 900-pound gorilla. They're a great company. They do great things. They also do questionable things, and they piss people off. But that's the way big business works. We're always going to run into that. They create competition sometimes by virtue of not doing what their customer base needs them to do because they can't do it all. But an industry creates competition if the industry is healthy. That's just the way industries work, right? If it's something that intrigues people, people see it, they get excited, they want to get involved, especially hobby industries. You see it in all sorts of stuff. All the different types of backpacks and camping gear you can buy is mind-blowing. And the amount of companies that get into it and then disappear a year later is even more mind-blowing because it's a passion project industry. So is ours. And the amount of people that start up little cottage industry stuff and then they're gone is again, it's sad, but it's also mind blowing, right? But that's the nature of the beast when you have things that people love it and they want to monetize their passion, so they get into an industry and do it. So there's a lot of that is in and of itself creating the competition. And what you see is big companies will start making things that other people made first. You know, the hobby holder thing. GW didn't make the first hobby holder, right? They made, a hobby holder after they saw everybody else making them. So they also compete. We breed competition out of GW as well. In your local Warhammer store, you subtly drop I use Pro Acryl. Yeah, it's funny. Our one of the biggest selling Warhammer stores in the U.S. was here in Scottsdale, and Luke, the manager for years and years and years, started his own store. And people would go use Pro Acryl in the Warhammer store. Well, they would bring it in. They wouldn't really allow them to use it there. They're not supposed to. And so they came on board with us as soon as he opened his store because they had seen it, touched it, tried it, loved it. We have a tremendous amount of GW employees that buy from us at every show we go to, right? They love our paint. I have it on good authority that our paint is in the GW studio with the studio painters. It may be in their houses and not at work, but there are a lot of the studio painters that swear by our stuff, so. GW loves to have indies test niche products on the market before they commit. Oh, sure. I mean, Apple didn't create the cell phone, right? Apple was very late to market with the iPod and the Apple iPhone. They let everybody else do the hard work, and then they swooped in and created an experience in marketing. Right? Danny Cooper. Hard to find anything other than GW in the UK. Only a few independent stores, yeah. Hell, we have a store that one of our biggest selling retailers in the UK is in Nottingham, right down the street from GW. The only other paint they have ever sold other than GW is ours. That's crazy, right? That was like one of the biggest compliments we could ever be paid. That store that's down the street from GW in Nottingham has only ever sold Citadel paints, and they brought our line in because they loved it so much. So, woohoo! Your OG MP3 player? Yeah, there were a lot of them, like the Zune, and I don't remember what all the other ones were, right? I had all sorts of MP3 player stuff before there was ever an iPod in my hand. But in the UK, you've got Element Games, so you're only ever a day away from having like millions of products you can never find at your local store too. And Wayland. The Grey Primer looks great. I'll probably buy it whenever you run low on Mechanica Standard. Yep. You'll love it. We actually know how to make matte paint, turns out. Do you know off the top of your head if any of the stores in New York City or the tri-state area carry your paints? We have some in Jersey. In the city, there aren't a lot of hobby stores with a lot of square footage, so a lot of them have given us a lot of pushback. I'm pretty sure there's a store in Manhattan that carries the sets, but Philip would know better than that. He's our sales manager. But we have stores in Pennsylvania, Jersey, upstate New York. And I think there's a store or two out on the island. Dom's. Oh, we were showing off the spray paint. We were showing off that we actually know how to make matte spray paint. Ta-da! You won't find a more matte rattle can than this. Thank you for the follow. Chimera. I'm having a great day. I'm very tired. Since I got back from my travels, I have not been able to really catch up, feel like I'm catching up on sleep. I had the rash of bad hotel beds, even though they were what I would consider to be nice hotels. They're very stiff, very hard beds. I don't like a soft bed, but they were way overboard on the hard. And so I travel with my own pillow, so that saved my life. Otherwise, I'd be mangled and needing a chiropractic right now. But I haven't been sleeping really well. Plus, you get back here, and it was supposed to be the cool down part of the year, and it's like 1,000,000 degrees. So that didn't help either. Dom, yeah, I mean this is no joke. This is I was showing off for everybody the differences. They took them away. But just the differences between the shine of look at the gloss of a bottle of our paint or whatever, right? Versus that's just dead matte. You're just not gonna find, and this is just one good solid coat, right? You can see the shine of the plastic underneath. So there's no tomfoolery here. That's just superior dead matte paint. We should just keep like 2 of them in here. Grab me the 2 models, the salamanders. Yeah, I'll just do that.
And then I'll keep the.
Oh, and then maybe a white and a black. Do we have salamander in all colors?
Maybe.
Or just give me a gray, white, and black.
Salamander in black.
Yeah. It doesn't have to all be the same model. I don't really care. It's just easier for.
There's a gray.
Demoing.
White.
That's cool. Yeah. I'll find a place for these.
And then this just.
So here is your standard plastic. Whether this is 3D printed resin, but you can imagine like plastic off the sprue, very similar. Here's just the varnish over the model. That's not a color. That's just the matte varnish on top of this model, right? So it's just sprayed on top of the shiny resin. No color. So you will be able to spray our matte varnish and use it as a primer. Like if you don't care about black or white or color, just get the matte varnish. That way you can finish your models with it and start your models with it and you're done. Right? Because it gives a tremendous amount of tooth that will allow you to paint right over the top of it. Okay? So that's just raw matte varnish, clear. Okay? Then you've got your gray. Just our good neutral gray. Right? This was, again, very heavy. So this was just sprayed super heavy, and I was showing everybody the detail on it. Didn't obscure any of the detail. Kept everything, no texture, super smooth. Only the texture the model's trying to have is on there. And that was just holding the trigger down like noob-style painting. Introduction to Priming 101, Gabe just said, I'm just going to spray it like I've never done this before. And he nailed it, right? You can see the difference in the matte of the gray versus where he didn't get it down in the neckline there where it's still shiny from the resin. Right? Big difference. Then, of course, the black. Again, the black is almost like sucks the detail out of the model, right? Because it's so matte. It's awesome. And then same with the white. Ultra matte on the white as well. Zero shine. Every painter will love this better than anything you've tried. Guaranteed you will not find a better matte primer or varnish on the market. No matter who says they make it. Coming out swinging, gang. We're tired. Mo says, is it out yet? What's going on, Bojack? No, They See Me Gaming, the 69 Mega Paint set is here to stay. At least for the near future. Sugar Rush, did I get sick? No, I was traveling. I've been gone. I went to Dallas and Colorado. So I was gone for 10 days. Clear resin print with clear varnish, need to experiment. The matte will dull it down. It will be more translucent than real clear. Just understand that, right? The Element Games at Nottingham is super small. Yeah, super small. You did a trip there. It's the only place you spend any money other than the pubs. I love it. You can't wait till the spray reaches Australia in 57 years. We were just talking about that. We're hoping we can get it down to Australia. We've got to talk about logistics and their hazmat importing stuff. All of our Australian distributor shipments go by sea, so that part is covered. We can't airship because pressurized hazmat can't airship. So it's only available in the 48 contiguous lower states. in the U.S., and then we will be working with Canadian and Mexican authorities to make sure that we do all the safety and I'll get them all the right data to be able to truck it over the borders for them too. But it'll be a little bit later going outside of the 48 lower. Europe and the UK, because the manufacturer of these is over there. You will be able to see them quicker over there as soon as we get all the licensing stuff done, because it won't be shipping from us. It'll be shipping from these guys. Ever heard of them? How about that? How about them apples? We have amazing friends and better partnerships. New York is definitely a nightmare for hobby, and Manhattan, yeah, especially. A lot of the stores that were trying to be hobby stores were almost like they glommed onto gift shops that their family owned, and somebody in the family loved wargaming, so they tried to shoehorn it in the back, and they had some paint and bottles after you passed all the Chinese trinkets. The store that I would try to go to when I lived in Brooklyn was a nightmare, so I ordered everything online. Charcoal dust on that Mini, yeah, without the dust particles. It does look very much like charcoal. It is like the black is seriously a charcoal black. Like that is a matte black. Undead matte paint. The white primer hurts your eyes to look at. It's pretty bright. It's a very bright white. You need to charter a boat from Ireland to the lower 48. Nick will be able to get them to you over there. The formulation is not the standard ColorForge formulation. We were able to work with them to get a new version of primer. That's awesome. Patrick says, oh my God, can we get colored primers too now, please? Stay tuned. Stay tuned for more big news before the end of the year. Can't say I've ever tried it, but if you wanted to try to keep an area from being matte finish, I'm guessing you could stick Silly Putty over the area to keep it from being matte. No, what you would want to do is, okay, so if you're doing your model at the end, you would want to take the matte varnish and varnish the whole model and then go back over it with a gloss or satin. You can take our gloss varnish and thin it down, and it'll be more of a satin, and then paint over that area again if you don't want it to be matte, like eyes, mouth, blood. But matte everything down because you're going to get a really good solid protective coat from the matte, and then you can gloss it back with gloss varnish. 100%. Works every time. Believe it or not, even clear stuff. So if you pour resin for water on a base and you mat it all down, the resin's going to turn into look like frosted glass. And then you put gloss varnish over it, it gets to be clear again. It's amazing. Physics, right? But yeah, I matte varnish everything. I don't cover anything up, and then I go back with gloss varnish over the top of the areas that I still want to not be matte, and it works a charm every time. It's awesome. Super awesome. Wow. Boshek says, wait, Jason, I can't remember. Do you have a flat clear that's comparable to Testor's dull coat? Yes. The answer is yes. That's what we just showed. So this is the way the model looks as it comes off the printer, and this is the way the model looks when you spray our dull coat on it. This is not a color of paint. There is no pigment on this model. This is the same exact resin with the matte varnish on the top. So you tell me. It is ultra matte. It works like a freaking champ. We think we got a winner. Winner, winner. All the dinner. We set out with these and started talking, and we're able to partner with ColorForge, and they have a really good product that's making a lot of waves over in Europe and the UK. And speaking to Chris, the owner over there, coming up with some great ideas, and now he's jealous because he likes our matte formula better. Your local stores, Irie Hobbies sells both PA and ColorForge. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Are Pro-Acryl paints matte unless otherwise specified? Yes. Yes. All of the way that our paints are formulated is ultra matte. So you'll see like this guy. This is all, blended and mixed color and all that. No medium or anything like that. And you'll see that it's all very, very matte finish across the entire surface. right? That's all of our standard paints. Everything in the normal lineup or the signature line is going to, if it doesn't say anything underneath the paint here, so it's just the paint name, white, blue, burnt sienna, then you're going to get matte finish. They're all going to be very highly matte. The ones that are not will tell you that they are satins. So like Dark Sea Ben, right, will say satin underneath, right? And if you look at any of our color charts, they'll have a big S in the background of the paint name when you can't hold the bottle and you're just looking online. And then we have two gloss colors. We have the Dark Crimson, which I'm not going to find in my set here, and the Petroleum Brown are the two gloss colors that we have. So, and those are more like effects. The Dark Crimson is more like a blood effect, so meant to be gloss. And the Petroleum Brown is like an oil slick, so it's meant to be gloss. But you can use like our Glaze Wash Medium, which is also a matting medium, has a lot of matting agent in it. You can mix that in to dull them down however you want. Or now you'll be able to use our matte coat over the top of it if you don't like the shine. Paint it on there, hit it with a little bit of matte. We will have the same level of matte in our airbrush varnish that'll be coming out later this year. So we'll have lots of ways for you to play around with that. But the bulk of our line, 99.9% of our line, is matte. Bring forth the cans. Big Can Energy is what Gabe came up with. So that's what is running around on the internet right now. So there you go. Fun stuff at the beginning of the show. Hi, how's everybody doing? How we all doing? Pretty good. I don't remember how to paint, guys. It's been 2 weeks. What do I do? How do mine fish? How do mine paint? I don't know how this works. What am I supposed to do here? What is this? What am I looking at? We painted a bunch of hair on this guy. I remember that. I remember before we left, I painted hair on him. Nice, Gosu. Dip, brush, and paint. Apply pain. Apply pain. This isn't that kind of show. So Monday is when you have to spend money, right? Thursday next week, the 10th. The way we get the D100, yes. Where's Chris when you need him? Get the big house paint brush and just be like, blah. So the primers will be released for public consumption on Thursday, the 10th of October. So next Thursday, a week from this coming Thursday. We started pre-orders for retailers this week. Those will be shipping this week so that the retailers will get their shipment over the weekend or beginning of next week. So if you have an FLGS close to you, they may have the cans earlier. You should probably go kick them in the shins today if you can and say if you haven't ordered your Monument sprays, you should, because otherwise they may miss out. These are going to go really, really quick for the first batch. There's thousands of cans, but I guarantee we're going to sell out quick. And then the stores that jump on the pre-order very quickly will get their supplies starting at the end of this week. Some stores might have it as early as this weekend, especially if you're in the Arizona area. I know that the stores that have ordered here will probably get them for the weekend, if not early next week. And then across the rest of the nation, stores will start to receive them through next week. So your retailers will have them before they go live in some cases, if not very soon after. So ask them and support your local game store first. But if you shop on the website, you'll be able to get them on the website starting on Thursday, and we will do a special where we do the build your own bundle. If you buy all 4 colors or just 4 cans of any one color, you get 10% off. 1850, 500 milliliters, you got it. 1850 MSRP, and on the website, just like with paints, except you'll have to buy 4 cans of Rattle Can, you'll get 10% off, right? So nearly $2 off each can if you buy 4. And that can be 4 blacks or 1 of each or 4 clear varnishes, whatever you want. Just mix and match up to 4 colors of spray primer. You'll get 10% off in your cart. And that won't be just a release deal. We'll do that all the time for you. So. Yeah, and 500 mil, realize that this is all solid 500 mil of paints. These are very, very high pressure cans, meaning that you're going to get 100% of the liquid out of them. And 500 mil beats out the competition by 25 to 30% more paint for less money, right? Or right at what you would pay for like the lesser quality competitor, but you still get more volume. So we feel very confident it's a very competitive price. You know how we do. More, better, and great value. That's what Monument Hobby stands on. We don't release it until we can meet those 3 things, and we've done it here. So watch out, all you guys out there that think you make good paint. We got you. We're coming for you. You'll need a dealer close to Raleigh, Durham. I'm pretty sure we have a dealer in Raleigh. Don't we? Again, check our store locator, the FLGS link. Right? These one. Is it exclamation point, I feel like? That one? Check that. Look at North Carolina. Not on the map? Yeah. Maybe outside your area then. Go kick your local store that you love. Tell them they need to order our paints. It's that easy. Guaranteed a store from there has probably either contacted us and is on the wait list or has been waitlisted because they didn't get back to us or whatever. We try to make sure we have somebody in every major metro area. Sometimes that doesn't always work. I know right now we have a lot of newer stores that opened up that have had a little bit of a rough summer going, so they may be a little on the back burner for bringing a new product. That's always something that we're fighting against, but it'll happen. Yeah, always ask them, hey, why don't you guys carry Pro-Acryl? Call them. They'd love to have you. You could be the only one in the neighborhood printing money from the Pro-Acryl money tree. It's that easy. Our paints make dealers money. That's the bottom line. You make good products. Treat people right. Good things happen. See if I can remember how to do this paint thing. I don't trust me a whole lot, so don't blame me if it takes me a week or two to get back on the horse here. I've only been doing this for like 48 years. Is that true? Okay, gang, I painted my first mini when I was 8. Somebody do the math. I'm 54, about to be 50. Am I going to be 55? I'm going to be 55 this next year. How silly is that? I can retire. I can get $1 off my Denny's pancakes. What the heck? Is the world about to get better or worse for me, gang? I don't know. 8 to 55 is 47 years, right? So for 46, coming up on 47 years I've been painting? Isn't that silly? That just seems ridiculous to me. I did not know when I was 8 years old that at 54, about to be 55, I would be hanging out with nerds on this thing called the internet that didn't exist when I was 8 years old, by the way. There would be a method for me to hang out with all my nerd buddies on the interwebs and paint little dudes. So, I'm glad we're all on this journey together. Hopefully you're having as much fun as I am. I think these will be all the gold things going in with burnt sienna and all the areas that will become gold. Gold. Cheaper pancake sounds pretty sweet. Hey, there's got to be some bonus to getting old. If it's cheaper pancakes, let's make it happen. You've been accused of being the local Monument Hobby sales rep, Patrick? Yeah, Tim said that the other day, right? It's like, are you on their payroll? By the American Working Hobbyist, for the American Working Hobbyist, yes. Yes, we actually use our stuff every day. I challenge every other owner of a paint company to say the same thing. They'll be lying to you. There's a Twitch channel now for miniatures and models. We finally made it. Did we finally make it? We asked them to do that back 8 years ago. Frank Turfler, is the matte varnish going to be available in a non-aerosol as well? Yes, we will have an airbrush version. It is lagging a little bit behind, and that's only because one of the matting agent components for it was 180 days out from our vendor. Like one of the chemical components, they were not ready for the order size that we put in for it when we got the formula right. So unfortunately, we thought it was going to be easier than it was. That's our fault. But all of that is sorted now, and it's all in its final stages of mixing. So we're hoping that we'll have it out by Black Friday, you know? But we don't want to release it too soon after the spray primers because it'll get lost in the noise. So we'll probably hold it a little bit. We might make it available on the store and just not market it heavy until Black Friday or something like that. So burnt sienna on the leather parts. I'll probably do the leather parts with like a green undercolor, believe it or not. I wanted the gold to be warmer, so that's what we'll do here. Senior menus. Yeah, exactly right. Make good products, treat people right, good things happen. Did I say that? Because that sounds like something I'd say. Derp, you thought I was 45? Thank you, man. I'm flip those numbers. I don't know what it all feels. I do know that as I get older, I do feel different. Like if I sit for too long at my desk, it's hard getting up out of my chair. I'm getting elderly, folks. I told somebody today they were being mean to me at the office. I was like, that's elderly abuse. So I'm definitely going to use this to my advantage. Donald Kelly says, just want to say that you've noticed your painting improve in the months you've been working with Pro-Acryl. The matte varnish and even blending, or the matte finish and even blending really pushed me to take my time and work on those extra details. Fantastic, right? It's amazing how the right tool, and by right tool, I don't just mean some obscure thing that in the hands of an artisan becomes a fantastic deal. We set out, and we talked about this a lot in recent streams, maybe even a little bit yesterday. When we set out to make Pro-Acryl, the goal was to make a tool that made it easier for everybody. That's from the first beginning painter to the most exceptional, trained, experienced painter in the world. What can you do to offer a product that gives all of them something to get excited about? And I think that number one, you have to be embedded in art and the use of that product to really be able to do that. You can't just market that. You have to use it every day, believe in it, make it something that you find yourself being truly honest and saying, I love this stuff. And I love this stuff, right? We make it, we deliver it, and we use it every day, and we love it because it handles all of that. When I want to paint quick and don't want to have to worry about it, Pro-Acryl. When I want to really focus and get to the finest tiny details on a display model, Pro-Acryl. Right? I just never have to think about it. I grab the color I want, which is the way my brain is tuned as an artist. I just want to grab the thing I'm thinking of visually. I want a greenish blue, bam, or grab the two colors I know I can mix together and do that and not have to sweat any of the details. That's always been the problem as growing up, like I said, from age 8 till now and painting, is that every time I wanted to do something, there was always a caveat. There was always yes, I can do it, but I got to buy this other thing because I need this medium to mix in with it to do what I wanted to do. And the medium wasn't specific for anything. It was just a thing you had to have in order to make these paints work right, like enamels. They were too thick to really use out of the bottle, even though testers told you could. Little glass bottle, right, metal top, get rusty, enamel paint. And so you'd paint with it thinking, oh, they sold me this paint. I spent whatever it was back in the day, 75 cents a bottle. I don't remember. And it was glopped. It was thick. It didn't work right. I didn't know. As a kid, you just used it. And your models didn't look like the model the other guy painted. And then they tell you, oh, get this mineral spirit or get this turpentine from well, I got it from in the garage because my dad was a woodworker. So I always had like turpentine and crap. Right? But now go sit as a kid in your room getting high off of turpentine fumes so you can make your paint work. And so Pro-Acryl was just meant to be the way to get the best of all paints and not any of the hassle. That's really it. We started by saying, hey, we want you to spend more time on the model than on the palette. And that's what Pro-Acryl is all about. A little bit of dampness on your brush. World-class painting. You do you. Make it happen. All right, let's think about this. These should be like gold coins too, right? I'm okay with that. Less talk, more paint, old man. I am flying solo today, as you may notice, so if I miss your comment in chat, please recreate it. Kick me under the table. Type it again. I apologize. Jen is out preparing for her trip. Jen is going to Essen for Spiel. Jordan is also on his way now to Germany. So Jordan's in the air, flying to Dublin. I don't remember where he goes into. I think he goes into Dublin and then on to somewhere else. He's got like a 4-stage trip. Jen's got a 2-stage into London. She leaves tomorrow. So both of them will be there. Jen's got some meetings set up. Jordan will be painting in the Element and PK Pro booths. So he will be showing off the dynamicism of Pro-Acryl. Go put him to the test. If you haven't tried our paints, you live over in Europe or the UK and you're going to Spiel, go beat up Jordan. Go say, hey, some old man on the internet said I should try your paints. I'm here to see what the deal is all about. What's all the hype about? Jordan will show you, because rumor has it he's a good painter. He will show you what it's all about. What type of pancakes? The good kind. The heavy paints will be available for Black Friday too if all goes well. I'll keep you posted on that. Timing's a little bit off on that. We did finally get the black tubes. We are making heavy-bodied acrylics. There will be 16 colors on initial release. Those 16 colors are amazing. Matte finish for tube acrylics, heavy-bodied tube acrylics, which is going to be amazing. That's something you really don't find. All tube artist acrylics don't care. They're usually satin or gloss because nobody cares on a canvas. But for painting on 3D models, we've got a better viscosity and more matte finish on them, which I think you're going to love. I've shown you. We've painted with them. We did the crone, wherever she is up in my nonsensical. Good God. Yeah, good luck with that. Oh, there's no, that's the box art one. Well, trust me. I swear. We painted with it. I don't know where she is, though. I can't find her. Oh, there she is. So this was the crone with all of our tube heavy acrylics. Lots of fun. So yeah, we are motoring along, coming out with all sorts of cool stuff. There won't be, 50 colors in that tube acrylic line. I think we'll stop at 24. I have 8 more that I probably want to do, but we'll see how the 16 sell, and then we'll move along with that. And hopefully those will be out by Black Friday. Lots going on here at the end of the year. And wink, wink, nudge, nudge, we're not even through with all the spray paint announcements. I don't know what that means to you, but got a lot of cool stuff going on. What else looks like it would be gold? Probably with this whole thing? What is this thing around his neck? Would the whole thing be gold? I don't know anything about what I'm looking at here. Arm plates gold or silver? Probably silver on the arm plates, right? Yeah, probably silver on the arm plates. Gold wouldn't make any sense. Gold's decorative, man. Ooh, maybe the thing around the top of the horn here and the bottom. That sounds good. This is the part of the model that always causes me the most brain ache, is when I'm like, okay, what color should this be? And later on, I'll change it all 6 times. I'm like, oh, as I was painting, I realized that's not what I thought it was. That's not part of his gun. That's part of his finger. This is a model from Warcrow. I don't remember what the hell it was called a minute ago. Warcrow from Corvus Belli, the people that make Infinity. Coming out with a fantasy, well, I say coming out, it's out. Fantasy game. I have not played it. I don't know that I ever will. Gabe may talk me into it. Gabe got a little disillusioned putting the models together. They don't go together very well. They're Siocast, and that's always a iffy thing. But I really like this guy for painting. So here we are, you and I, taking this journey together. One doddering old man with a paintbrush and a bunch of nerds on the internet embarking on a journey to paint a blue bear. Procro matte primer in a squeeze bottle is a great reason to make the trek up to your office from way down in Maricopa. It'll happen. It will happen. We'd love to see you. Maricopa ain't that far. What is the name of the video that best demonstrates on how to use your glazing medium? There's so many ways to do it, but there's one of the YouTube videos that I go over shows me painting with it in just using it in various ways to create kind of a speed paint, and then how to glaze over skin tones and stuff. So I did this really quick in the video, right? And that's pretty good quality for just going fast. But I do the fur cloak and show you how to do that as a speed paint, and then we talk about layering as glazes on the skin. So it gives you the rough beginnings of how to do it, and then, you know, talks a little bit about building up. But you can get really substantially great base coats out of it really quick doing it that way. There are many, many more ways to use. So I think it's glazing skin tones, or I don't remember. It's on our YouTube channel. Usually we would have Jen here producing and she could throw a link to it in there, but we don't, so I apologize. Today you get Dollar Store Monument Hobby stream with Jason on his own. Like I said, doddering old man. I like that. That's what I'm going to be from now on. That's just Grandpa. Don't worry. He doesn't bite. Everybody's doing well. Hope the week has gotten off to a good beginning for you. We are solidly into Tuesday now. We'd gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. What, yeah. Nick says, Colorforge do a nice range of signature sprays for a bunch of artists. It'd be amazing to have a range of Monument signature sprays too. Think gray primers, gray primer. I mean, technically that's what these primers that we've done are. They're our own signature series within their formulation. They were able to reformulate to match what my demands were for a spray paint. So we're very, very happy. The Colorforge team is fantastic. They love the hobby. They love what they're doing. They have filled a gap that, again, was kind of started because there were a lot of colors in GW's old sprays that allowed you to kind of paint quickly because you could base blue, base yellow, base green for whatever chapter or army you wanted, and then just paint right over the top. When they came out with contrast paints, they kind of removed that. You wound up with only like the bleach bones and a few of the other sprays, and now they don't have that same old color range. And so now Colorforge has filled that gap, come out with a tremendous amount of colors that match all the old Citadel sprays, and they've done a fantastic job. But they also happen to stumble on a very good formula of paint that makes you rethink the value of sprays, because it can not only make things quicker and a color base, but for us, it can make priming something that not only is quicker, more attainable for everybody, but gives you a heavy-duty quality base coat, like what we sought after with our airbrush primers, but in a heavier, lacquer solvent, right? They're not acrylic. I mean, it's acrylic resin, but it's not in the same carrier. So it's good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, yeah, that's right. He has to go to Copenhagen. He has to go to Denmark, Nick. You're correct. Oh, burnt sienna is an amazing color, right? For gold, if I'm doing warm gold, it winds up being the base. Generally, I do my golds with a base of green, right? You can see kind of, well, do I have one here? Everybody's moved my models around. Womp, womp, womp. Like legit, all of my models are moved. I don't know where anything is. But anyway. Normally, when I'm painting non-metallic gold, I use one of our yellow greens as the base. I really love green as a base for gold, but if you want your gold to be warmer, oh, well, I kind of just showed it, right? Because on her, that's kind of my standard gold, has more of a yellow-green base tone, right? Works really well. It gives gold that tarnish to it that you can control, that feels more realistic and doesn't blow it out and make it look too much like, 24 karat gold plated. Whereas warmer golds tend to make it look more like brass. That's the difference in brass and gold. So I tend to go with greens to avoid that. But on something like this, where I've gone so cool on the coloring of the fur, bringing out the warm gold will be a lot neater as a visual. So I'll go with oranges into yellow instead of greens. See, Paint Liquor, now you just got to keep climbing the ladder to tell everybody what's going on. I still want to know why you're giving a client 200 grand. Can I become a client? I would like 200 grand. That could almost buy half of an automated paint line, which would allow us to make more paint. Frank Turfler says you like to mix your own colors. Do you have a list of the single pigment paints you produce? We make it known when they are, Frank, but our paints are not made like other paints. So all of our paints mix like single pigment paints. I would challenge you to try and pick up any of our paints and mix them. You'll get exactly what you expect every single time, which makes painting so much more of a confidence builder. It is the one thing that sets Pro-Acryl apart from every other hobby paint, is that we make fine art paint in a bottle. Everybody else makes house paint in smaller bottles. So, you know, we believe that paint is meant to be mixed and meant to be used like an artist would expect, as opposed to just being the color you want, right? Everybody should expect that when you pick up a color, it looks like that color when you paint with it. But house paints aren't meant to be mixed, and most of the manufacturers out there kind of build their paint up like a house paint. So it could be made from any weird combination of pigments that the computer says are good for doing that, as opposed to using good, strong base pigments that are green if you're making a green, or brown if you're making a brown. You know, if you start with a raw umber when making a brown, you're going to get a much better mixing paint, even if it has 6 pigments in it. It doesn't require it to be a single pigment. That's kind of a wives' tale. Understand that like process cyan, process yellow, process magenta that you would use in painting from a CMYK standpoint are not single pigments. Those are generally hues in the art world. So when you pick up those paints, they aren't even going to be single pigment, right? It's how the pigment behaves is what you're concerned with, not whether or not it's just a single pigment. Single pigment is sometimes at a detriment because guaranteed, you know, all but just a handful like titanium white is a single pigment in our line. It's very opaque. Coal black, very opaque, single pigment. But most single pigments are very translucent and hard to work with in that case. Dark magenta, single pigment. All of our transparent paints, single pigment. That's why they're transparent. And it makes it tougher to work with because you lose the opacity with a single pigment. You have to put opacifiers or other colors in there to get that layering to give you the opacity that you want. So when you can do it the right way with the right hues and the right base pigments to start with, and the quality of pigment and grind and all the things that we do like a fine art company, we do all of this by hand. There's never a time where we input into a computer a hex code and get paint spit out like everybody else. I mix everything by hand, and we get those colors, and we then do it by gram, thousandths of a gram weight of pigment into colors. So it's old world style. Well, maybe not old world. I don't crush it up in like with a mortar and pestle, but but we're as close to that as the modern age will allow us to be, right? So you can feel comfortable mixing everything, but you can with our bismuth yellow, our ultramarine blue, which is a little more towards a violet hue, right? But bismuth yellow, ultramarine blue, our dark magenta, and then white and black. You can do your CMYK mixing and be forever happy with that. Also, the new bright I'm sorry, dark hot pink is also a good one. It's a little bit more red in the magenta space, but that one's really good. I don't CMYK is hard because the magenta part of it is really obscure. You can use a little bit more of a red color and you'll get better results for what we do. But that just depends on the artist, how you like to mix. But again, my goal was to come out with a paint line where you never had to ask those questions. Pick the color you want, use it how you want, mix it how you want. It's always going to mix how you want. You're not going to dilute it. It's not going to gray out. It's not going to turn brown on you. You're not going to get all that nonsense that you're used to with other paints because all the pigments start reacting differently in a situation where you don't have, like if your green doesn't start with a green pigment, you don't know what to expect, and the paint doesn't know what to do as you start mixing with it. It starts leaning yellow or blue depending on what color you're mixing it into, and you lose the green base. Because even though it sounds fine that green is just yellow and blue, well, yeah, you can get green that way, but that's not green as a mixing base, that's yellow and blue. So if I mix it together with an orange, it's going to start leaning yellow, and you'll lose your green. It'll get taken over by the yellow hues. If I start with a green pigment base, then no matter what I mix it with, it will always continue to be green, because that green pigment is just green, won't change. Science. We believe that this hobby of ours is a respectable art form, and we should treat it as such. Give it the proper components, tools, training, and people will have a much better experience. Because stuff will just kind of act the way your brain tells you it makes sense that it should. Even if you haven't studied color mixing, I am not a formally trained artist. I didn't go to school for years and years to learn what I know. It's just through doing it. But your brain knows. It's funny. Your brain knows over time, like what I should kind of expect when I put these together, you know. And when it doesn't happen, the brakes hit it. Chuck, you were told that we would be instructed which inside safe space you should go over over the paging system. They were confused when I asked if it was really wise to collect all the targets and announce where they were. What are you talking about, like active shooters? Ugh. You went to Sugar Rush. You went to a buddy's help to help him put War Crow together. They're rough, man. They're really rough. Miscasts abound, and they're rough. Yeah. The jaw of that bear is separate from the rest of the model. Yes, with the little beard part underneath, and it leaves a join line. The 50-cent piece stream, dollar store. I like dollar store. We're still 99 cents or under. How dare you do a cool stream and show us all the new varnishes without the proper production value? I've got no producer. I don't have an adult to keep me from saying bad things. I'm turning my hat around backwards like I'm a young one. Hi, fellow youngsters. Goopster, you just got here. When are the sprays releasing? Next Thursday, the 10th. Chad already got you. You saved me from a likely unsuccessful Rust-Oleum experiment. Well, it's a struggle because whenever somebody would ask me what spray paint should I use, I always hated that I would have to tell them Rust-Oleum or Krylon. Their matte would get you the closest to an actual matte finish that you can get in a spray. That sucks when you have a hobby company that's telling you to buy matte black from them and it's a gloss. It's matte on the scale of 0 to 100 gloss. Matte could be everything from 50 and under on the gloss scale. That's not the real scale, right? But that's the way people think in the manufacturing world because they're not used to manufacturing for people that are artists. They're manufacturing coatings for walls. When you look at matte paint at Home Depot, it is not really matte. It's satin in our world, right? Because there's no way you would want a true matte paint on your walls. It would show handprints and get dirt all over it. It has too much tooth. It's not the way you want to paint your house, right? So their version of matte is much different than ours. But in the world of coatings companies, that's what they learn. And so when you ask for a matte paint and I go to HMG and I say, make me a paint, they make me a paint and it's matte, but it's not, it's gloss. And that's the world that we live in. So you would have to tell them Rust-Oleum because some of those companies actually kind of understand what matte is for like doing barbecue grills and things like that. But it obscures details because they're not trying to make a paint that is there for capturing detail at a small scale. They're meant to put out loads of paint, loads of pigment, loads of stuff to cover because you want it. If you buy a spray paint at Home Depot, guaranteed 99.9% of the time, you're trying to get stuff done, right? So you just want it to cover and you don't want to have to buy 80 cans. And so that's what that paint is for. So you always have to think about what the end game was for the product you have in your hand, what they intended it for. It may have other uses that you found, and we talk about IKEA hacks and all that kind of stuff. Great. There's a lot of that in our hobby that are good to go for. But we're always trying to find that little niche. Where can we take a product that was made for another industry, make it better, make it fit our hobby the right way so that everybody can touch it, not just people who kind of know the right screws to turn and right additives to mix in and things like that. So. Paint liquor. Stolen property in the land of maple syrup. It's unlikely I'll ever pay you. What? Big Cat, nice. Glad to have you. Oh, yeah. Some people have said there's a mini painting category on Twitch now. We will change to that if that's the case. They did it before and then they took it away from us back when they got rid of Twitch Creative years and years and years ago. Frank says, good to hear. I'd rather use Pro Acryl than Chimera. Well, thank you for that. Number one. We strive to make the artist's paint very friendly. We know we call it Pro Acryl, and when we thought about it, in our minds, it was all great. It was like, yeah, paint like a pro. Some people are like, oh, I'm not a pro, so I shouldn't use your paint. I'm like, no. We kind of missed the game on that one from the naming standpoint. We make paint that makes everybody feel like a pro. That's the whole goal. You feel like looking at the limited palette challenges would display how well they can be mixed? Oh yeah, yeah. We do like a lot of small, like limited palette challenges around here, and the colors are just a dream to work with. Zazin, what did Zazin ask? Any update on the heavy body paints? Hopefully by Black Friday. Yeah, yeah. Okran is correct. 16 colors, shooting for Black Friday. We have a lot of work to do, so we may be cutting it tight, but our goal is before end of the year. If we slide a little bit because of everything else that's going on, then, I'll let you know. The old world, thousands of a gram. Definitely having the metric system prior to 1795. I mean, that's old too, right? I grind up shellfish for the right pigment. I go dig up dirt that cows have peed on for a particular yellow. I stopped doing that, by the way. There was a particular yellow that was one of the most expensive pigments in the world that had to be from the ground that this particular cow type would pee on, and they had to feed the cow a particular diet, and it was very well thought out. And I think it got called like mistreatment of animals at some point, so now that's not existent anymore. Most pigments are now synthetic, so we don't have to mistreat cows to get them. Frank Turfel, yeah, the dark magenta is a single pigment magenta. So it should be what you're used to if you're using artist pigment. That's what it is. We call it dark magenta only because we did a magenta that is more opaque that had to have titanium white in it, so it's a little bit more pinkish. And that was our first magenta. It works very well too, but it kind of leans against the red. It's a little too bright. So the dark magenta is your best bet. But I really think that the dark hot pink from Rogue Hobbies line is the best one if you're doing CMYK mixing. It's fantastic. What's going on, Lurker? What's happening, Plank? The generic Dixie Normus picture guy. I love it. That's a heck of a name. Yeah, we're making our own spray paints now. In concert with Color Forge, we came out with, or coming out next Thursday. It'll be available for public consumption. The stores are already able to order it, so all of our retailers in North America will be able to have this by next week if they get on the order. So 500 milliliters. It's a fantastic, huge, humongous can of a custom formulated matte primer that we're doing. That's the matte black. So it's soul enriching, light sucking primer. There's the sheen of the plastic it's painted over, and that's what it does to it. Bam. Sucks all the light off of it. It's a perfect primer. Black, gray, white, and a matte varnish, clear matte varnish. There's a pigment that came from ground up mummies. That feels right. I mean, it doesn't feel right. It sounds right. I can believe that. I know it's probably tough to answer, but if you had 300 minis to prime and varnish with clear, how many cans would be a safe order? Like 6 primer, 6 clear? Oh boy, that's tough. With 500 mil, I believe you could probably do about 50 minis a can, maybe more. So yeah, I think 5 or 6 cans would be good. You might be left with some paint left over. You know, you might start with like 4 and see. The varnish, depending on how you like to go over it, the varnish you may need less because the varnish will cover quicker because you're not having to turn recesses a color. If you get a little bit of a recess missed by that point in time, especially if you're using like Pro Acryl paint, it won't matter. You're not trying to protect, you're trying to protect the top surfaces, and it will matte the model down very well. So you might be able to get away with, 5 of the color and 3 or 4 of the varnish. You probably don't need a 1-to-1. I'd love to sell you all of it, but I also don't want it to just be sitting around your house. Turbo magenta. Yeah, it is kind of Ollie. It's kind of a turbo magenta from Rogues. Yeah, and Goopster's like, yes, you get 10% off when you buy 4 cans of primer. All of your primers past the 4th can. Well, if you get 4 cans, all of your primers in your order will be 10% off. So that's $1.80. $1.85 per can you'll be saving yourself if you buy in bulk. So we got you. We thought of this. Wad, take it easy, man. If we don't see you back. You live in the middle of nowhere, Canada. So you probably just do 8 of each to be safe. There you go. Remember, these are only available for order from the site for the contiguous United States because we have to work through all the hazmat transfer stuff to Canada first. So we're working with our Canadian. We will be working with our Canadian distributor in the coming days, weeks, months to get all of that figured out. They might have to get licensed for transporting the stuff over. We've got to talk with them and make sure all that's in the clear. We can't just ship it to you in Canada. We might be able to figure that out quicker than not with UPS. And see if UPS border crossing, because they do that on the ground, which is fine. They won't air it to you. But we need to understand the hazmat side of it and see if there's anything that could catch them at the border that could cost you more. We don't want it to be something that you have to pay unnecessary amounts for just because we didn't do our homework. So we're going to do a little bit more research there before we open it up to Canada and Mexico. Not all of that stuff is open and transparent for us to figure out. So I apologize. We will get it figured out as quickly as we possibly can. Some of this, I have no idea what this is. Ooh, I see what that is, though. Christopher's over here making noise, dropping stuff. Chris is doing the Lord's work today. He's been taking photos and video. As soon as the paints got in, we had them. It was time to go. Shoot them being used. We want to make sure that by the time the street date hits, everybody's got good, useful information to show off what you can achieve. We want to show models being sprayed. We want to show it in action. Get it to where you feel comfortable before you go in and trust the fools at Monument Hobbies with your hard-earned ducats, doubloons. I can't really tell what the hell's going on here. This is odd to me. I feel like that could be like a trinkety thing that's supposed to be gold, but I don't know if it's a miscast or what's happening there. I feel like I'm going to paint it gold. Somebody can yell at me and I'll change my mind later. I just don't know what it is. Some sort of almost Norse looking thing. I feel like fighting polar bears would be very Norse. Very Viking things. They would take a sauna, drink a lot of vodka in the sauna, and throw knives at each other. That's what these guys would do. Feels about right, doesn't it? It's a good narrative. I think we'll do, this looks like a dagger scabbard, but the dagger's gone, so it's very odd. Patrick Laughlin says, Kishima Sushi is a good man. His mother is a great lady. She was a space marine. I wasn't here for that, so the joke is lost on me, but you're all right. I feel like you are correct. Is April 1st? I wasn't, remember? It was the day that Chris and Gabe, I think, pretended to be me and Jordan, wasn't it? I know I wasn't here for that. I just got the aftermath story. You were in the Netherlands a few weeks back and there was a sauna in the bathroom? Oh, I can believe it. Sure. If this is a safe space, I have thoughts about the name Warcrow, Flapjack. What do you mean? Why does it have to be a safe space? Their whole name is Corvus Belly. They've always had like the crow as their thing, so it makes sense to me from that standpoint. Did you have something else that was going on? I don't know. Landmaster of Lancaster, how long is the dry time between application and ready for brush tickling with the spray primer? Pretty quick. Now, that is like any spray paint, it's going to depend on the relative humidity where you're at. If you're in a wetter climate, then it's going to take a little bit longer. Here, we're in Arizona, it's super dry and super hot right now, so it was like dry when it hit the model, and that was why we tested it as soon as we got it, so that we could make sure that in our climate, holding the can away, you didn't get like that crazy speckling that will happen when it dries midair and you get all the dotting. We didn't get any of that. Right, you can see like it didn't speckle bad on the cardboard or anything, so none of the webbing that can happen. So it was a good test. Unfortunately, we can't just test ultra humidity. So if you're in an ultra humid climate, you'll want to test on something to check dry time and stuff like that. But yeah, they're made in the UK where it's ultra humid, so they are really made for that, which is why we were very insistent on making sure we could QA a bunch of it before here in our own climate. So what's the story about your mother being a space marine, Chris?
Oh, okay. So it was me and Jordan were just. He was talking about 40K or something, and I just kept saying, "My mother's a space marine."
My mother was a space marine.
That's literally it.
Okay.
That's the story.
Okay.
I was
there you
just
go.
being silly. She's a good lady. I was being an Italian space.
Yeah, Flapjack, I agree with you, right? Warcrow is just kind of like, it's just a name. It's a brand. It's like Coke. What does it mean? Who cares? I mean, they're named Corvus Belly. It's kind of what they are. So I get it. But yeah, it was kind of like, eh. I mean, it does kind of fit a fantasy world more than sci-fi, so I'm glad that Infinity wasn't called Warcrow. But I think they started as a D&D campaign maker, Corvus Belly, with fantasy models and stuff. I might have that wrong, but can you fill a room with humidifiers? I'm not going to. No. Yeah, Nick, that's the biggest thing is when you're spraying to get that solvent smell done and out is usually the best. Now, that being said, this model was primed right before the stream. And when he, like literally, Chris, you guys primed this right before he handed it to me. And I mean, it still has the solventy smell, but this was dry when he handed it to me. Like he handed it to me, the stream started, and I was touching it and handling it on stream. So, you know, in Arizona, it was spray to paint inside 10 minutes.
Oh.
Way less than that, but I would say I'd be safe 10 to 15 minutes later putting paint on it. So, yeah, they have an Infinity RPG now. But that came after the fact. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's super matte for those of you that didn't see earlier. That's the matte black. The matte gray. Right. We have a white. And then the matte varnish we've been showing off like this. This is the Salamander 3D print that we do for our texture trainers. And that's it with the matte varnish on it. No paint, technically. Just the matte varnish. No pigmented paint. That's just the matte varnish over the top of the 3D printed resin. So, not some trick of different resin. These are from the same, well, I don't know if they were from the same print batch, but we only use one resin here. So, pretty crazy, right? It's like the black and the blackest black type paint. It's not quite that bad. You can still see details. We had to be careful because you get to some level of matte to where it has way too much tooth, way too much texture, and you can't see detail. right? Because it doesn't reflect any light. That's that blackest black paint, which is great for special effects, but it's not good for painting over, right? It's too rough. This is still smooth, right? Gives you a good tooth, great to paint over. Yeah, if you're in Texas, like South Central Texas, you've got a good amount of humidity. It'll be fine, but you'll probably want to give yourself a couple hours after spraying just to make sure that it's had time to off gas enough to not sit there and get high as you're painting it. Nick Garcia next Thursday, October 10th. So does the varnish have some tooth to it to allow painting direct? Oh, yeah, sure. It's a matte, so it will have a very good tooth. Here, let's just take one of these. I think there's another one over here. I want to keep the salamander one, but I want to take the other one. Is that it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here's the same thing, just matte varnish on top of the Hunter, right? Same, just raw resin with the matte varnish on it. And if I were to take a damp brush and my burnt sienna here, same way we've been painting over just a base coat of paint, then you'll see, without any beating up, I can paint right on that. No fear. And that's thin, right? I'm consciously making a very damp brush, so you'll see some of the gray. I'm not quite glazing, I wouldn't call it, but this is a good layer style of paint. If there was ever a time that it was going to beat up and give you a problem, it would be now with a damp brush, right? So yeah, you could use the varnish and just paint right over it if you wanted to, you know. For a lot of 3D prints, that might be really good. If you're printing with a darker gray or a black resin, then you could just put the matte varnish right over the top and use that. I don't know that it saves you anything. You're going to be spraying it with something to give it the tooth that the paint needs to adhere. But you can see, like, right away, boom, done. Done. And then I'll dry the brush and get it to where it's just the paint with no water on it, pretty much. That's just full body on the paint, and same thing, right? I can just kind of drag it across that whole thing. I'd never be able to do this on just the resin mini itself. It would bead up like oil on water. And that's good, like one coat coverage kind of consistency on the paint. So either way, you can see a little bit thin where I can see the gray, and then this just straight out of the bottle, and they both work the same. Very, very good. It does help with print leveling, yes. Yep. You could do the varnish over the top of it and get rid of some of the print lines and make it to where it... Now, understand that our primer and varnish are meant to really hold detail. So if they're standout stuff, it's not going to fix it for you. You're still going to need sand. It's not going to be a miracle cure for like leveling out your print detailing. But for small imperfections, I believe you could get away with that and really have it work. You could do a couple of coats in that area for sure. Papa Chicken is like, why is it called tooth? I'd have to look up where that came from. That's just how I've known it my whole life, is that you wanted it to have tooth because it would grab the next paint layer, right? Texture always sounds like something that's meant to be physically indicative, like something you can see. You don't talk about something smooth having texture, right? But whereas a tooth on a primer is still technically smooth, just not at the microscopic level. You know, so tooth is something that transcends the visual comprehension of the brain listening to somebody say it has texture. You know, I think of wool having texture because I can feel it and see it. Tooth, you shouldn't be able to see. It should be texture at the microscopic level that helps everything else connect to it, because you're giving the thing more surface area, right? Because if it's completely flat, it has that much surface. As soon as you put a little tooth sticking up at the microscopic level, now it has more surface area, because now you have to go up, over, and down. So now you've in some instances, you've given yourself triple the amount of surface area for every little spot that you have teeth, right? And so that allows the paint to adhere better. You've got more coverage that way. Tooth gives bite to the paint. Yes, exactly. You were feeling bad about missing out for Essence. You booked your hotel for Games Expo. Nice. You can swim from your car to your house. But you can still use rattle cans on occasion. Yeah, even in humidity, they work very, very well. You just have to give it more dry time. And you have to be careful to not really glom it on, because in a more humid situation, it's going to take longer to off gas. And so the layers that are on first, you want to do a small layer, let it dry. Another layer, let it dry. Right? You don't want to do a bunch of buildup in humid temperatures, because as it dries, it can cause issues like what we call orange peel in the painting world, like in automotive, right? Where you get the top layer will kind of flash dry, but the layers underneath it haven't because of the humidity. And then as they off gas, that bottom layer gas pushes up through the top layer cured paint and causes little pinprick holes and bubbles. So be avoiding that. Just don't put a lot on in once. Yep. Sprays will be available next Thursday, the 10th. Correct. Yeah, I think of texture with regard to paints as like the stuff that makes it look like faux stone and all that, so I don't use the word texture. Yeah, I don't know that I would use these on Reaper Bones. I don't treat I know that Reaper Bones is a very pervasive thing, but I do not treat it like a normal miniature. They decided to go in a different way because of manufacturing process, and I don't treat that as the norm. Plastic, resin, and metal for what we do. You can try it on bones. You can wash the Bones minis and it gets rid of some of the waxiness, and then I have primed, because I've done that before. I've washed a bunch of Bones minis and then spray primed them for classes, and it's worked great. But you have that extra step that's a pain in the butt. But of course, if you're only doing a handful of minis, it's not as bad as washing 100 for a class that I'm teaching. All my old classes at Kingdom Con, Reaper would supply the miniatures for, and so I'd have to soap and scrub and let them soak, and then I'd take them off, and then I'd spray them, and then they were fine. No problems at all. You just have to go that extra mile because of the waxiness of the Bones material as it comes out of the mold. Yep. Dawn dish soap, exactly. Just a normal dish soap. That's all I used, was some dish soap. I had Simple Green, something, I don't remember. Something like that. A little something like that. All right, let's do some, I don't know if I really have to go to burnt orange because of layering it up over the blue. I don't think the burnt orange gives me a whole lot, so I'm just going to go to Nova Orange on this, believe it or not. Gloss on minis to restore saturation, or avoid it because of the reflections it can cause. I personally avoid it because of the reflections it causes, unless it's on something like an eye or something I meant to look wet. It's great for if you have a model that needs a tear or a sweat stain or something. You can go through and make a gloss line and give it a tear that you don't have to paint. Certain cases that works very, very well, but I typically use it for special effects like that, not for overall. Like I said before, it's really hard to have a gloss or satin keep the look of your model the way you intended it, unless you're using it in that specific role. When doing non-metallic metal, doing the satin or gloss just across the edge to help punch that shine of the edge, perfect. Wouldn't do it on the whole thing, right? Like if I do non-metallic metal shoulder plate on the edges, putting a little gloss helps that pop on the edge, and it's actually a good trick to use that makes the more believable metallic finish. But if you put it on all of it, then you're just going to lose. It's going to be blown out, look like, a water puddle. So you just got to be smart in how you use it. A great tool. Talking to Ben and Matt with their signature series, they wanted everything to be satin because for them, they use that shine as a tool, and then they mat it down at the end. For me, I think completely different, right? I want to not have to fight reflection as I'm painting, right? So as I'm putting a bright color like this over the top of a darker color, I can see exactly where my paint goes because I'm never having to worry about the reflection in the room showing me a lie. And that's exactly what it does in most cases, is it lies to you, right? It shows you something that makes it feel like, oh, I got the perfect brightness on the top of this area. And then what happens? You take it into a different light, or you turn it like this, and all of a sudden it's like, where did my brightness go? Oh, well, it was a reflection. It was not real. And so now you've just altered the story you're trying to tell on the model by no means of your own or no fault of your own. It's just the light in the room changed, and so now you can't see it as well. Again, I think from an artist's perspective, you always want to present your story so in a manner and a technique that keeps it that way, regardless of what room you're in and what people are looking at it. Because if I have to make sure the lights are just right for you to really enjoy the model I painted, I haven't done it right. That's why I don't really like color shifting paints and things like that. They rely too much on the ambient light in the room to do what you want them to do. They're fun, and they make some neat things happen, but they never look the same in a different room than where you painted them. And that frustrates me, so... Again, that's just a personal thing that I picked up along the way, because I painted lots of models, and especially when doing dioramas and taking them to IPMS type shows and, you know, setting them out there and being like, why does this look like garbage? It looks so good in my house. Because in my house, I would be using incandescent lights that had a little bit of a yellow tone to them or whatever, and my model looked a lot warmer, and then I take it to a show and a convention, and it's underneath these horrible fluorescents, and it looks like garbage and makes me really mad. And so I learned through all of that to say, okay, what I need to be doing is baking all of that look into my model on my own with a purpose. And so you have to control your lighting and get a very neutral colored light so that it doesn't influence what your model looks like. And also remove the reflection from the paint you're using and use a matte varnish. I used to have to matte varnish my model a lot in between layers because nobody made a matte paint. So I would paint and then I would matte varnish it, you know, and then I would paint and matte varnish it. What a pain in the butt that was. So I can old man gripe for days as to why I decided that Procryl needed to do certain things a certain way because of things I disliked. And now I don't dislike those things anymore. Well, I do. I don't have to deal with them anymore because I have Procryl. I see every brushstroke, which can be frustrating. I get it. You might do something you don't like, and you'd be like, well, with my old paints, I wouldn't see that. It's like, no, you wouldn't, but it's still there. You can hide from it, but that doesn't make it go away. Procryl will make you a better painter because you'll see all your effort immediately. And you'll also be able to recognize what you don't like immediately and not have to find it out the hard way. So, gloss for eyes is nice, and wet spots, yeah, definitely. Or that's why we make a gloss varnish, you know, because you'd listen to me and be like, why do you make a gloss varnish if you hate gloss so much? Well, because as a tool, it's very useful, but it's a very specific tool that needs to be used in specific ways to really get the punch you're looking for. But yeah, it can definitely be fun. A great tool. I don't know if all of this is supposed to be gold around his neck. I feel like it could. But I feel like it also has like some twine to it. So I'm going to paint it like it's some sort of brown thing. Heavy leather wrapped around. And then if it, maybe we'll give it some gold accents, like gold thread running through it. And then just keep the ends with the gold balls on them, I think. My model, I'll do what I want. The whole neck is gold on the box art, Sugar Rush? Okay. I kind of like that too. Maybe that'll be better. I don't know. I'll think about it. Nova Orange is such a good color. It allows me to play in the world of orange, but without being fully committal. I don't have to commit. We can date a little orange, but, you know, we don't have to, like, meet each other's parents yet. It is so good as a bridge between the burnt orange, burnt sienna realm of our color range. And lets you build up into yellows in a much more comfortable way than, say, just orange. I'm really glad we had the opportunity to work with Nova Orange and they let us do this color. I don't know that I would have just come up with it on my own. It's a little bit more of a peachy orange than I think I would have just mixed up. I like it a lot. Christopher should be more mad that Jordan hates comedies. Christopher is probably still angry. We're all angry that Jordan hadn't seen any movies prior to the 90s or prior to the year 2000. That's just kind of a thing around here, people. Ballpark Pop Chicken asks, how many minis do I think I've painted? That's a tough one to answer. Thousands and thousands, probably. Maybe not thousands and thousands, but definitely thousands. It's a great thing. It's a great and horrible thing to think about. It reminds me how old I am and how long I've been doing this, but it's also pretty cool when you think about it. I know just off the top of my head, just as random number Tuesday, that I have painted a dozen or more Tiger tanks in 1/35th scale in various states of disrepair for my diorama days. I would do all Tigers. Panther was my favorite, but from a historic standpoint, there just weren't a lot of them in the field. So Tigers and Panzer IIIs and IVs were the ones that I painted the most of. And I've done, oh geez, now that I say that, Panzer IIIs and Panzer IVs probably I've done dozens of each of those. So you think about the stuff before just the miniature world that led me to this world, 1/35th scale military models and such, and it's just a huge amount. So every paint that was satin, royal purple, dark magenta are going to all get the new matte sheen, Ricardo? No, Single pigment paints like that will be what they are, because to matte them out takes away the usefulness of what the goal was. All of those are single or dual pigment paints like the dark magenta and all that. So the satin nature of them is inherent to the pigment. And anything we add to them to matte them down causes that pigment to lose its intensity. So we will take a look in certain cases. We won't call them satin because, you know, that it doesn't fit. Like, we didn't intend for them to be satin, but they will be that way just because of the nature of the pigment. So some are more glossy, dark purple, which is that violet hue, and then dark magenta especially. So no, those will not be getting the matte treatment. We like those where they are. They make sense to keep that way. They do not upset the matteness of the model very much, and then the matte varnish will help you with them if you need to knock them down. I think people would be more bummed out with those if we made them matte, because then you'd lose the vibrancy of that pigment that makes it so special. So yeah, good point. There are a few of them that do not say they're satin that will act and give you a little bit more gloss. It's still very minute. But royal purple, dark magenta especially. Yeah, it's 2 pigments in the royal. One of them being that magenta. Quinacridone. That it gives it that glossiness, right? And they are, aren't they? Yeah, the royal purple is one of my favorites. It's what we used as a base for this guy. It's my undertone for this whole model, because it gives a nice warmth to the cool nature of the blue that I'm painting on his fur, right? It just kind of gives it just a hint of warmth, but not so much that it makes the cool blue, look any less intense. So does that mean the thing on his arm is also gold? Are they the same bands? Do I paint them both gold? I'm going to do the one on his neck gold because I was told it was gold. So I'm doing it. I think it'll look better gold. And then maybe we can do the loops in his hair to be leather or colored, or are those also gold? Does he use like gold loops to keep his braid sectioned? Kind of, right? Torques, is that what that's called? Torques. We'll do it in gold. I'm not an old world battle jewelry professor. Torque seems like a word I've heard before. And not with regards to automobiles. Oh, nice, Okran. Very cool. When painting non-metallic metal steel, when would you add the rust effects? Could you underpaint the effect first? With non-metallic, I do it after the fact rather than before. You could definitely do it at any time. I think you'd be better served to go ahead and do the effect, and then depending on how you wanted to do the rust. So if I were going to do rust here, I would probably go back after the fact and start doing it in like the darker areas first, you know, with something like the burnt sienna that I'm painting on the other model. And go in and line it, and then a little bit of orange, maybe a little bit of yellow ochre dotting around it on the surface, because rust is an oxidation that sits on top of everything else. So doing it underneath is good for quick painting. When we do like our dry brush technique, we would do like the burnt sienna, burnt orange, yellow ochre in a real splotchy nature, and then dry brush a metallic over the top, and it gives you a really cool rusty feel to it. Like this guy. This is what we did right here. Right, so that gives a nice kind of beat up, rusty, but used look. So that can look really cool, but it's not very intentional in providing a real rust feel, because the metallic sheen would not be on top of the rust. The rust would be on top of the metallic sheen, because it's an oxidation of the top, the grit and grime and loose stuff that's on the metal and those areas that have been scratched. The rust is a material that sits on top. So you would typically be wanting to paint it on top, unless, like I said, like this, you were trying to go fast. We did this in like an hour, you know. And so here, it gives you a really good look. So painting it underneath would be cool. This would be much harder to do with non-metallic, because you would be covering up so much more, right? Yeah, go. So I remember that. Yeah, but rust in the end is typically the way I suggest doing it. You'll get a more realistic effect. You'll be able to control it better, so that you make sure that it isn't over the top, or, you know, you can seat it in just right, and, you know, push it into the recesses if you want it to be kind of a still used, beat up, polished on the edges, but rust in the recesses, or do it, you know, severely beat up. I say beat up. Rust does not necessarily mean beat up. It can just be sitting and unattended, right? Remember that rust does not stick on surfaces that are in use very often. So when I see rusty tanks that are still mobile, that's kind of not a real thing. Rusty cars that are still working are typically patinaed on purpose. You know, it's not a thing that happens because rust is a loose flake of oxidation that will come off with wind and water and all that kind of stuff. So you got to be, you know, careful on what you're trying to go for. I don't know how much realism you're trying to bring into it, but I like the look of it, so I usually don't care. I'm just like, put it on at the end, make it rusty. Painting like Death Guard Nurgle, and rust is your friend, right? Because you read the books, and it's like, they even talk about it sometimes when the Death Guard are marching, that it's like rust is happening as time goes. It's instantaneously oxidizing and rusting as the rust flakes off and more parts rust. So that gives it that mysticism, you know, Papa Nurgle kind of stuff. I like that a lot. So don't ever let reality get in the way of your fantasy unless you're just hell-bent on it. Yeah, on functional vehicles, the way to use rust is to rust a particular part. Like on tanks, you might rust like the jack, right? Or a particular thing that is attached to the tank but isn't part of the tank itself. Although people will get, you know, the rivet counters will get mad at you because they'll be like, no self-respecting tanker would let the tank become rusty. And that's true, and it gets used and it falls off and yada yada. But again, part of what we do is for entertainment purpose, right? I think a large part of what we do is for entertainment purpose. I don't know that I'm trying to paint every rivet the right way. But if you're trying to do that, there's nothing against that. Just be, you know, then you have to do more research and figure out, okay, when would this have happened? How would it look if I did it this way? But again, that goes back to why rust is always better to paint on top of your surfaces than underneath. More believable, even on Death Guard where they aren't very believable themselves. Here comes Smiling Steve and his band of undead zombies. Pestilence flows. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, Ricardo, because rust can streak if it's been laid out and it's rained. The rust will form when the oxidation occurs, and then because it's just a topical surface flake, it will rust and streak, or it will streak down a surface, right? So rust can be painted almost like a flowing, living thing. It's mercurial if you really want to get down to it. It can exist in many states on the same piece of metal component, too, depending on where that piece is touched or rubbed or laid up against a barn. Rust is fun. Verdigris too, though, but I feel like most people overdo verdigris. And again, just for cool factor, do what you want. I'm a fan. These first couple of layers when doing non-metallic on small situations like what we have here, there's no big, huge surface. I mean, I'm not doing the sword yet. I typically am very loose with these, so even though I'll catch some detail here, I'm not trying to trace out all the runes and things exact, because the way this initial highlighted mid-tone for the gold would be is it would reach down into some of the crevices and they would brighten up on towards the top and things like that. The next color we use, which will be yellow ochre, will be where we have to start thinking about actual detailing and making sure we don't get brightness into the recesses as much. But for now, you can be kind of loose. The first couple of layers are really just like base coats. It's all just about kind of cementing in the form and your color base that gives you notice that we're not really trying to create a whole lot of shine here. There are brighter areas and darker areas, of course, but it's not really where your intent is right now. It's just giving yourself a good mid-tone, building it up over that dark base, and then starting to move towards your brightness with the next color. And then the color after that is typically where it starts looking metal. I say that unless you're doing what we call wish.com non-metallic metal, and if you're doing fast metal, speed metal, we'll call it, then your third color should give you the pop that starts giving the contrast of shine and metal. When doing it in a more methodical manner, your fourth or fifth color start being where you start getting the reward of your non-metallic. So I feel like a lot of people get kind of bent out of shape when they start trying it because they put on 2 or 3 coats of paint. It doesn't look right. It shouldn't. It should just look like normal painting right now, right? Because at the root of it, this is still just a colored thing. It's yellow metal. And it's not until we start getting to the point where the reflections overtake the color that it will start to look like a hard surface with shiny edges. Right? Especially on small details like this. We don't have a big enough surface to paint like big reflections on. Things like that. Speed metal! Oh my god, it's almost 4. Are you kidding me? Time flies when you're having fun. Let's do a little bit of a yellow ochre before we get out of here. Wo ist. I really need my new paint racks. Ha! Yellow ochre. It's not 4. The clock is fast. It's 3:52. I have 10 minutes. So speaking of speed metal, somebody get it going now. I have enjoyed this day. It's back to like the old days, you know? Just you and me, chat. You and me. Welcome and welcomer and welcomist to all of you. If you're new around here, if it's your first day visiting us, welcome. Glad you found us. We are Monument Hobbies. We manufacture paints, brushes, and all sorts of cool hobby supplies in this world of miniature painting. And then we use it live on stream on a daily basis, Monday through Friday. So if you like what you've seen, even though I haven't made a ton of progress today, we've done a lot of talking, chatting, catching up. I've been gone for nearly 2 weeks, so I'm very happy to be back and be under the brush again. I have not touched a model with paint in over 2 weeks. Well, I guess that's not true because I painted last time I was on the stream last Wednesday, right? Or Wednesday before last. So it hasn't quite been 2 weeks. Tomorrow would be 2 weeks. If you want to get technically, well, actually, here's where I start thinking in terms of, okay, where am I going to catch reflections on the edges of the metal? So I have to start thinking in terms of light direction now. And I like the idea that maybe the light is coming off of his left shoulder. It's an easy one for me, being left-handed. So I'll start staging it that way, and then we'll see how we like it. I can always come back and kind of retro fix that. But so I got to catch inside edges on the left, outside edges on the right. And that will, once we start setting it up with what we'll call our mid-tone highlight here, that will then become definitive on our next color, right? We can still be a little loose right now, but not too much. And the next pass becomes where you have to get serious or you'll start messing it up because the light won't look real. If you just start doing a standard highlight like you would with anything else, it'll just look like anything else. So you have to, as soon as you take the next jump, will be to go very bright. We'll go to bright pale yellow next. We won't go through a stage of blended colors from yellow ochre to the next color. We will jump to our big bright highlight, reflection color, if you will. All of these are still fairly good blending components. The Nova orange into the yellow ochre is a no-brainer. 64 strokes per beat and 240 beats per minute. This isn't that kind of show. Baby J went back to his home planet. Get the white rattle can sprayed on an angel and call it done. Down. Make it happen. Your matte satin gloss labeling and approach is also very helpful for us consumers. Most companies don't even label anything. Speaking of sheen, yeah. A lot of people have said we should put the gloss level on there because we start reaching more and more artists who are used to that from tube acrylics. Our tube acrylics will have that on the label. We will talk about light fastness and matte or gloss scale on the tube on those. For the liquids, we don't, and that was just something that we didn't do. We started with the satins, you know, saying that these are satin and these are gloss. People would probably like to see us put matte on them as well, even though that's what we're known for. So we've tossed it around. It just had never happened. Does it mean we'll break out in song if we do speed metal? I can't scream like I want to anymore. Or we'd be doing like Slayer covers, right? I can't even do it. I can hear it in my head, and if I do it, I'll break the microphone and half your eardrums. Great. Now I have Rain and Blood stuck in my head. Some Christmas trainers. We did, you know, it's funny. If you probably weren't around for this, but we did a set of miniatures in 2021, right? And I think it was 2021 or 2020. No, it was 2021, right? During COVID era, where we did 2 miniatures every quarter and released them out as part of our Mother Lovin' Paint Party. And we did paint-alongs with them and gave out a bunch of prizes and things like that. And one of the 2 miniatures that I designed that were sculpted by Lee from Mini Monster Mayhem for us, I did all the drawings, he did all the sculpting. And one of them was this Something's Wrong with Santa. Santa's a little undead and has a coal-fired belly going on. And then the elf on Rudolph that was hunting down Santa to fix Christmas. This was an homage to Necron 99 from the movie Wizards that I did. I reached out to Ralph Bakshi and told him we were going to do. I actually asked him if we could do a miniature of Peace, Necron 99, and they never really felt great about it. And they don't like licensing their stuff out like that. He's not really about the commercialism. And so we were fine with that. I said, well, can I do an homage? And I sent them the graphics, and they loved it. So we did this guy. So just a fun little ditty that we did for the Christmas release. It was kind of fun. Just Rex, yeah. That's the whole line. If you like the white, you'll love the whole line. Built by painters for painters. That whole line of models was some of my faves. We did this one. Is Cosmo. That I did an homage to Pascal Blanche. His color style in 3 dimensions was a lot of fun. Really fast. I think we did this in an hour and a half to show the speed at which you can blend and get good OSL effects and fun lighting and storytelling done with Procryl. Super fast, a lot of fun. These are no longer purchasable. These were limited edition. 1 year, 3 months. Limited edition, 3-month models. That's it. If you have one, awesome. If you don't, sorry. Deidre the Wanderer. We released them in pairs, so Deidre's got something wrong with her. Deidre's not feeling well. Also got a spot of color on her too, huh? Just some fun stuff that I created along the way. Just really cool, quick concept artist drawings that within we put in and sculpted them out and 3D printed them and put them out for everybody to paint. Somewhere is Cosmo. Oh no, Cosmo we just had. Deidre. I think the only one we don't have is Ilthur here in the studio. I don't know where Ilthur is. He's in one of the display cases throughout the office, I think. Vic V1K, the hunter. Fun piece. And I think the only other one we have, there's only 8 of them, right? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? I know I have another one in here. I have, I thought I had another one in here. Do I not? Oh yeah, there she is, Ephria. Chris has been taking a lot of photos, and Ephria gets a lot of photos. Ephria went with Vic. Hunter Hunted was that month's. We tried to do the 2 models, one more fantasy-like and one sci-fi, but along a theme. Ephria, you'll see in a lot of our advertisements. That was kind of a box art paint that we did live on stream for her. A lot of fun. There's a lot of my love of the Princess of Mars, Edgar Rice Burroughs, John Carter influence in a lot of these, like the four-arm Barsoomians and things like that. So a lot of really cool models that came out of that. Ilthur is the white ape, the Barsoom, white ape of Barsoom with 4 arms and maces and stuff. So a lot of really cool throwback stuff that was mostly an homage to like my childhood books and sci-fi and fantasy that I really love. Had a lot of fun with it. Ricardo, thank you. From Germany, Jen and Jordan will be at Essen at Spiel this week. Are you going to Spiel, Ricardo? You should stop by. They'll be at the Element Games booth. Jordan, our other studio painter, will be at Element Games and PK Pro throughout the week. He'll be at PK Pro doing a spotlight painting and question and answer on Sunday. And then he'll be at Element and PK randomly throughout the rest. Stupid work, making you miss Jenny from the block time. Namer, what's going on? Mike. Glad you like the paints too, Ricardo. We're putting in a lot of work to try to make them more available in your neck of the woods. Europe is always tough for an American company to break into. All of our competitors, as you well know, are in native to Europe and the UK. Being the lone American paint brand is sometimes tough to get over. I say lone. Reaper makes paints and Turbo Dork makes paints, so we're not alone. But the biggest name in our international reach, and it's still not easy. Anytime I go to these more round surfaces, sometimes I just do a lot more stippling to get the color on there first. They make coatings. They make house paint. You guys are learning. That's not fair to say. The paint quality is very good from most of our competitors. It just isn't made with the fine art intention behind it because it's not made by companies that make fine art products. And that's understandable. House paint companies aren't worried about what fine art paints do. They're worried about pigment matching colors and having opacity, which is good. Those are two good things. Your paint should be opaque so you can paint with it and should be the color you expect it to be. But we believe in the artistic quality of what we do as miniature painters and want colors to be able to blend and experience those nuances of how paint works that are beyond what you would experience with a traditional hobby paint. We stand behind that wholeheartedly. That's what makes us different. Or are we supposed to do that today, Chris? Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me get this yellow done. We're filming some stuff on the spray paints today. I forgot about that. I'm not staring at my calendar when I'm here on stream, and I'm just doo-dahing along. Chris is in here working. I'm like, why are you still here, Chris? Oh, yeah. We have a date, don't we? Chris and I have a hot date to film a voiceover for spray paints. I think doing those bands gold was a good idea. So good on the box art person who convinced us to do that. Some of this sculpt gets a little loose, tough to find the details, so I'm just going to stipple and see if we can't make it feel like it has detail on it. The Siocast sculpts are a little rough. But if we stipple, we can kind of hopefully find some of it, bring it back, make up our own, give it a little more feel. Huh? You need to come tell everybody.
Guys, guess what? Guess what, chat?
Guess who's going to make you mad?
These are mine. I'm taking them home. I'm going to use them today.
I feel like some models that have been needing to be painted for a long time are about to start getting paint because our primer is making people hyped to paint, which is awesome.
Maybe okay. Yeah, T-Schmidt, you sneaky punk. They said tomorrow. Mo.
Told you he's gonna make you mad.
Yeah, sorry, chat. Beware, I know where you work. Have fun huffing. Just checking, James' address is on the website, right? Soon. You guys will get it soon. Next week.
Yeah, we always let retailers get on the jump so that they've got it in the stores around the same time we release to the public. So that's happening this week. And then next week, booyah. You guys will all get your chance. All right, good. It's a good spot of yellow. Our gold is starting to jump off our blue skin.
Pretty good.
It's a neat little model. For as
Yeah.
garbage as the sculpt is, it's actually a neat little model.
Cool sculpt. It just wasn't.
The sculpt is good.
Yes.
The fit of the model.
The engineering was.
Yeah, well, I think the engineering's even good. It's that Seocast shrinks too much.
Yeah.
They have a big problem with the fact that from the time it fills the mold to the time you pull it and it cools, it has that shrink, and so none of your keyed pieces fit right. We saw that with our own as we were testing it, and it's like why we don't make miniatures out of it, because it just didn't do it right.
Yeah. Michael Payne, love to hear that. I know where I'll be getting my rattle cans now. Just had a load of paint delivered Monday. Going to be moving over completely to Pro Krill. I like to hear.
Put your hands in the air like this.
So, Jason, I didn't realize how scared I was of this until Phil made a joke about it 10 minutes ago.
What was that?
He went to go scan a can. He's like, oh, hope Gabe did his job right. I realized normally I get to test the labels before they go on product.
And you didn't on this
to
one.
see if they get scanned right.
Yeah.
And this one I couldn't.
But they were?
They're all good.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, they're all good.
That's the word I
All
like to hear.
good.
That's the word I
All
like to
good.
hear.
Art was correct. Yes. Cool. All right.
See you, Gabe.
Well, I'll be around.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Still got to do that little video with you.
Oh, yeah. Mike, nobody needs more minis around here. T. Smith asked if you guys ever abandoned an army paint scheme because you just don't want to paint those colors anymore, but you still want to play that army. I can definitely say yes to that. I'd have to think back to when that has happened. But yeah, there's been plenty of times where I've been like for me, because I typically take a character, much like we're doing here, and I'll test the paint scheme. Like if I had a bunch of bears in some army, I would be painting this guy first. And then, we would go from there. Oh, I can see what I need to paint here. And if I got to this point and said, yeah, this just isn't working for me, I typically, because I do it with that starting test model, I notice it before I get too far along. But yeah, there's been times where I've been painting an army and been like, yeah, this is just not working. Because sometimes you'll paint it and it looks great on one model, and then the next model, it feels okay. But then when you start seeing them together, you're like, maybe this is going to look, too repetitive. It's not what I was looking for, blah, blah, blah. That kind of stuff. So, there's always the ability to go back in and change it on the fly. Or, sometimes we can take the base coats that we've used and put another coat of paint over them and treat them as underpainting. Right? You've seen me do that with like some quote unquote eBay rescue type stuff before, where I've gone in and grabbed a model that had a paint scheme, and we've just treated the paint that was on it as, the base coat underpaint, and then put another set of color over the top. That works pretty well. So you can always do that. Brush On Primer has met all my approvals. It's really just waiting on marketing timing. We've got spray paints we're going to do. Then the Brush On Primer and the matte varnish will probably hit around the same time. And then the heavy-bodied acrylics will be coming out. So those 3-stage releases, along with some other really big news we've got coming, will be through from now till the beginning of the year-ish kind of time frame. And then even bigger news at Adepticon, and even bigger news, and you know how it goes. But yeah, we will have primer that comes in the 22 mil bottles that is great for just being able to carry around and touch up or prime full models with. That is literally one coat brush on primer, whereas the airbrush primer that we have, right, isn't so fantastic. Like this is the airbrush primer brushed on, and you can see like it kind of has that consistency where you can still see through it a little bit, as opposed to wherever my little Spider-Man chibi was, right? Forget where he went. Maybe did I paint that already? Huh. But the brush-on primers are fantastic. They're going to give you, again, a lot of tooth very, very quickly. White and black is all we're making for the brush-ons. Just 2. When can you get your personality adjuster? I think we took it off the web. Awkwardish, what's going on? Customer for life with the brush on. It's so good. I forget what happened to the model. We painted a whole model, I thought. Was it, maybe it was Red Skull? Oh, no, it was when we did Daredevil, huh? Daredevil was the black primered one. We did the black brush on primer with Daredevil. And then started painting him right over the top of that. That was easy, dries fast, really simple. So we're excited about all that. We're just bringing out all the right tools, man. We got all that. So everybody, it is time for me to call it quits on a Tuesday. Thank you for joining us. For those of you that might be new around here, please hit that follow button. We stream 5 days a week, and we'd love to see you back here with us. Welcome to the family. Like I said, we are Monument Hobbies. We manufacture all of the Pro Acryl line of paints right here in Phoenix, Arizona, at the factory that we stream to you live from. 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time here in Arizona. So just Google what time it is in Phoenix, and if it's between the hours of 2 and 4, you should be here. Just tell your boss you're supposed to be here. I got things to do over there with those guys. So love having you guys and gals around here. Thanks for joining us. Make sure, I guess I don't have a rage quit. You own the company. You can do it. I think Jen might have other ideas if I actually quit. The Discord, we'd love to see you in. Right? There's the link. Oh, Jesus. There it is. The Discord link. We have a community with, I don't know, approaching some ridiculous amount of thousands of artists just like you out there, coming close to 7,000, I think. Great community of people. Great way to meet and make friends on the internet, as well as get great inspiration for the next model or army you're painting. We do the monthly challenges. We just put up the October challenge, which is Undeath. So in Spooktober, you got to paint some undead Gribblies. So that'll be fun. And just a great way to hang out and talk pets and food and nerd stuff. So we'd love to see you there. As well as the store, which is Monument Hobbies, of course, where you can buy all the wonderful things you see us using. And then, even better, the FLGS link, where you can go check out all of the local gaming stores that supply you with your Monument Hobbies stuff. And you don't even have to go very far, and you go hang out with friends in real life. So even better, go support those stores that support your communities. We'd love to see it. So thank you so much for hanging. Stick around. I'm going to find somebody to raid real quick. I probably need to pull open a window. I haven't done this in a long time. What's this? There we go. And who's on? Who are we going to raid, gang? Anybody got any good ideas? I don't know which one of these to click. I'm going to click this one. On a Tuesday is Kenny. Kenny live. Did he survive the hurricane? He was in the part of Florida that didn't get pelted too much. So yeah, we're going to raid Kenny. So stick around for some next level painting. Show him some love. Drop him a follow if you've not done that yet. And we would love to see you back here. So thanks so much for hanging out with us. Look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow. I will be solo like this all week. Jen and Jordan, our normal other two on the stream, are off to Spiel in Essen. So if you're there at the show during the week, make sure to drop by, tell them hello, show some love. And we will catch you back here mañana. So adios, gang. Thanks for hanging with me. Bye.